You are now watching The Lone Blown. Blown! Yo, what's poppin', Pokemon peeps? Welcome back to The Lone Blown. I'm The Lone Blown, aka Zaclesage, and today we're going to be going over my tournament played Eternatus deck. So I played this deck in 3 tournaments this past week. The Chill TCG Wednesday, the Chill GG Tour $3,000 event, and the E&D's qualifier number 1 for season 3. And I was actually able to make top cut at all 3 events. So for the Chill TCG event, I was able to go and make top 16 with an Eternatus list with the spicy rose, the spicy rose. For the GG Tour qualifier, I was able to place 4th seed in Swiss, make top 32. I bubbled out, I had a rough top 32, I'm not gonna lie. Had a lot of variance, some poor matchups, those Luke medals, things like that. So I ended up dropping from the event to make top 32. I think like 22nd place, if I remember correctly. And then I was able to come top 4 at the E&D's qualifier, losing after a poor hand in Eternatus Mirror. So what does that mean? I think Eternatus is kind of broken right now. I think the list that my squad of me, Gabriel Smart, Andrew, Poke Hawkeye, I mean, it's one of those things where all of these players and myself came together. We came up with a really good concept for the list. So I really appreciate all their input and help on that behalf. So let's look at the list, see exactly what's going on. The list is going to be in the description below. The list might change by a couple cards if I play in a couple tournaments. I'm experimenting with the deck right now. If you're missing any of the cards for this deck, head to PTCGO plug in code ZELASAGE5, and save 5% on your next order of codes. Whatever you need, maybe it's for the deck, maybe it's for your collection, whatever you need. And don't forget right here, I know there's a gigantic whaler, there's a gigantic whaler right here. Sorry that that's in the way. The whaler, just hit that subscribe. Okay, cool, awesome. Let's jump into the deck list. So here's the list that I was able to do so well with. I mean, I've changed up a few cards here and there, playing with Spiritomb counts, playing with copies of Crushing Hammer, Dangerous Drill, you know, in and out of tech cards. And I mean, I think this is kind of the list where I'm settling at right now, at least for the given metagame. I think that this list is the kind of balance between consistency and tech. Sure, you might be able to cut the Dangerous Drills, forego a few different matchups that I'm going for, but this is generally where the list is. So for those of you who don't know, or haven't watched any of the other Eternatus videos on my channel, Eternatus has the ability Eternal Zone. So if all your Pokemon in play are Dark type, all the Pokemon in this deck are completely Dark type for what it's worth. You can have up to 8 Dark Pokemon on your bench, and you can't put any non-Dark Pokemon into play. So basically, you can fuel up Dread Ends, doing 30 for each Pokemon you have in play, doing 270 with Eternatus VMAX. You can see Dark Pokemon, Dark Pokemon, Dark Pokemon, Dark. There's a lot of Dark Pokemon that you could play in this deck. But there's not a lot of options on Dark Pokemon that you could play. They don't seem to be printing as many viable options nowadays, especially in forms of strong basics. So this deck is really split into, if you're playing the Poison Eternatus variants with the Toxicroaks and the Galarian Slowbro V, or if you're playing more of a traditional variant with Eternatus, Crobats, maybe Zigzagoon, Spiritombs, Yveltal. So we got Crobat V. Crobat V is packing a 4 of them in this deck, which makes this deck a little bit pricey. It's used for the Dark Asset ability, so that you can always draw cards. You can't play Dedenne GX, you can't play Eldegoss, you can't play any of those cards. So Crobat is a maxed of 4 of. It doesn't really matter, you just want to have it really on your bench to count towards the damage for Dread Ends. Now, if you're playing against a Luke Metal, Venomous Fang is going to be one of the strongest attacks that you could possibly do against their Zamazenta V. If you think about it, like your Eternatus VMAX cannot attack, so you can't do that huge damage, but you can go after Venomous Fang and start poisoning that Zamazenta V. Usually I like to draw a few prize cards first, and then I start attacking with like a Crobat or a Spiritomb and try to Crushing Hammer and Dangerous Drill their energies and metal goggles away. But just so you know, it is a viable attack. Eternatus V is actually one of the more powerful V Pokemon, not for its Dynamax Cannon attack. I actually did use that in a tournament against a control deck, but I did use Power Accelerator a whole bunch. So going second with this deck, especially against things like Pikarom, is quite strong because you can attach an energy, Power Accelerator to the bench, so you can get away Crushing Hammers. My rule of thumb is, if you're playing against a Crushing Hammer deck, you want to go second, so you can use Power Accelerator on your first turn, attach to this Eternatus V, and then power up another Eternatus V on the bench. You can also use Crushing Hammer on your second turn after your opponent's attached an energy to kind of nullify their first turn. So it's pretty huge there. Other decks that I consider going second verse, there's honestly not too many. If you think about it, like fire decks typically need to go first against you to get the first hit off against an Eternatus VMAX to get a knockout. So I mean, here you pretty much want to go first against every deck unless they're playing some kind of... You want to go second against every single deck if they play Crushing Hammer or any kind of energy denial. Beyond that, you're good to chill. Zigzagoon, I know a lot of us are playing a 4 of copy when it comes to this deck. I don't actually know if that's mandatory anymore. And I invite you to, I ask the question, you can put your comments below, what number are you trying to hit? Because there's no scoop up nets in a deck like this anymore. We've kind of moved on from these August-based lists of Eternatus VMAX when no one knew what they were doing. Zigzagoon's one of those cards where you're pinging. So let's say with Eternatus VMAX, if you're packing 4 in your deck, you're doing 310. That's enough to knock out an ADP with a big charm. But Dangerous Drill and Tool Scrapper also just do kind of like an extra 30 damage taking it away. Same thing with Metal Goggles. Same thing with a lot of things. The only few circumstances that I could ever see is that you need 10 damage to hit an ADP to bring your 270 to 280, and then you need to find a Dangerous Drill. So oftentimes I hated starting with Galarian Zigzagoon. It brought me to my demise. It brought a lot of my teammates to their end in tournament. So it's one of those things where I don't necessarily think the Zigzagoon is mandatory. Maybe 2 is a little bit low. It would be nice to have a third one in here. So I might play around with it. Like I said, I'm playing around with the counts of the deck. But I mean, between these 3 Pokemon, I don't necessarily think the Zigzagoon needs to be maxed out at 4. Same thing with Spiritomb. Anytime I've played against the Luke Metal matchup or any single prize card matchup, I find that one Spiritomb is usually enough to get the job done. Just because it's something you put on your bench, your opponent either goes after it, watch out for the Zigzagoon pings. But Anguish Cry is a strong single prize card attack that if your opponent can't do anything to it beyond just boss orders it up, you could keep on building damage to have a strong single prize card attacker, knocking out a Dedenne GX late game, or even just finishing up some damage after you hit with an Eternatus VMAX. Now, is this something that I might want a 2 of in the deck? Yeah, I think it might be. It depends on the metagame that I'm heading into. 4 Yveltal is really just more of a stance on, I'd like to start with Eternatus V or Yveltal, and this improves my chances drastically. Derail's a strong attack. Clutch auto wins your Mad Party matchup. They only play Air Balloon, no switch, so you could often just bring up an Oranguru, a Dedenne GX, a Crobat V. They can't attack, they can't retreat. Clutch just steals prize cards in that matchup. Derail is really great if your opponent's playing a heavy special energy deck, or if your opponent's playing an Eternatus VMAX Mirror, you can just take away their energy if they have the Hiding Dark, Capture, anything like that. I think that the Derail is amplified when you have Crushing Hammer and you have Dangerous Drill, being able to rip multiple energies away from their turn. But mainly this card is played for its free retreat, always giving you something to switch in and out of, always just being fodder that you could play down, even discarding the other copies with Dangerous Drill. Crushing Hammer is really my answer for Eternatus Mirror. Eternatus Mirror is something that I think is going to be more prevalent, and as lists play Crushing Hammer, if you're the list that does not play Crushing Hammer, you have no way to advance your energies in front of your opponent. Yeah, it sucks. It's a luck-based card. I totally agree with you. But it does also allow you to have a better Pikarom matchup, ADP matchup. Crushing Hammer is never a bad card if you think about it. There's always energy in play. There's not too many decks that don't actually run energies. Like Control even still runs 2 energies nowadays. There's that new like Muck Control with Munchlax and Galactic Mine and stuff like that. Crushing Hammer is a great card. Same thing with Dangerous Drill. A lot of decks are running it pretty they're running a little bit behind when it comes to things. Like they don't have copies of Dangerous Drill. They don't have copies of Tool Scrapper. So when your opponent drops the ADP, you're trying to hit 4 Zigzagoon pings. Why would you hit 4 Zigzagoon pings when you could hit 1 Dangerous Drill? Simple numbers tell me otherwise, and this gives you options in your deck. There's so many times where I'm like, cool, I can take care of that Galactic Mine, or that Galar Mine. I can take care of my opponent's Speed Lightning energy, or I can take care of that Chaotic Swell in play if I wanted to thin my hand down for a Crobat. So you got some plays with Dangerous Drill. Now, the rest of this deck is going to be pretty standard. You got Great Ball because you're just trying to search out Pokemon. When it comes to sequencing, you always want to Great Ball first before using Quick Ball. And let me tell you why. Great Ball has a higher chance of hitting a Pokemon when there's more Pokemon in the deck. Quick Ball takes a Pokemon out of the deck first, which means you have a lesser chance to hit with Great Ball. Unless, of course, you have 8 Pokemon in your deck and you're trying to hit an Eternatus VMAX, and that's the only way that I could ever see it, or you're just trying to improve your chance of hitting an Eternatus VMAX with a lower deck. That's the only time that you would ever want to use Quick Ball before a Great Ball. If you find any other reasons, let me know, but that is just proper sequencing. Pokemon Communication changes no sequencing at all. When it comes down to it, you could play this in any order that you want. I think it's better to use Great Ball first to try to figure out exactly what you're doing, but you got the 2 copies if you ever need to directly search for a Crobat, Eternatus VMAX, or anything else you're searching for. Quick Ball is just to really get Pokemon in play, and I mean, it being a 4 of is a no-brainer. 4 of Switch, I go back and forth if you need 4 Switch. Switch is really only needed when you're playing against Pikarom, or if you start with anything that's not an Eternatus VMAX. Sure, Switch is just a generally useful card, so we're going to play a 4 of count, but I could see cutting a Switch for another Boss's Orders. Boss Orders, we want to bring up whatever we want. Marnie, we want to disrupt our opponent's hand or shuffle back some of our resources in. Professor's Research allows us to kind of get that extra draw. And then there's 10 energies, which is really I think it's the correct amount for this deck. Anything less feels weird. I've seen some lists that run Energy Spinner. I'd rather have the hard dark energies, because when you're playing against a matchup like Luke Metal, or when you're playing against a matchup like Control, you want to have every single resource available to you. And I'd rather have a hard dark energy instead of playing anything else. So I mean, that's kind of what I can explain for Eternatus VMAX. It has some compelling matchups, like it's favorable, slightly favorable against Sense of Scorch, very favorable against ADP, very favorable against Pikarom. And then I'd say against some of the other fire decks, it's very close, probably being slightly favorable. It has a favorable Mad Party matchup. So it's one of those things where, what do you really lose to? You lose to Luke Metal and you lose to Colossal. And if you look at the decks that I lost to a Luke Metal deck. I lost to 2 Crycephalon decks, which is on this channel as well. And I lost to a Pikarom deck. Those were all usually due to dead drawing or my opponent drawing well, the Luke Metal matchup being the exception where that's a poor matchup. So if you want a good deck and you're like, yo, I've been watching your channel, is this the deck that I should play? This is a very tournament ready deck. This deck is like the same deck that I made top 4 with recently, as of like, I'm filming this right now Monday morning. I finished top 4 Sunday at 10 p.m. after making top 32 at a huge 200 plus player regionals that day. So I mean, I've had a lot of success with Eternatus lately. Take my word on it, give it a try. I know the list looks weird, only 2 lines of Pokemon, but let's jump into some games, see exactly how this deck works. Okay, so we're gonna call the coin flip here. We're gonna call tails, and we lost the coin flip. That's okay. We'll wait to see what our opponent's doing here. We're going first. I mean, if we can get an Eternatus and an energy, that's fine. So you can see starting with the Yveltal is great. We got the free retreat going on, so we're just going to vibe out, see exactly what our opponent does. Top deck and energy, they have a Mew, so let's go Great Ball. See, we've got the Eternatus. Don't know exactly what our opponent's playing for what it's worth, but I am going to attach a dark energy to the Eternatus V. I think that seems important. At this point, I might as well play another Great Ball, see if there's anything else I could put down. I could go Crobat to draw some cards. I don't necessarily see the value of drawing just a couple cards. I'm just going to grab another Yveltal. You want to load up your bench with Pokemon, especially Pokemon that can do some things. So let's go ahead here and pass. There's no point of retreating, no point of doing anything. Let's see what our opponent does. If they don't get a Pokemon or anything else like that, and our opponent is playing that control deck. So when you're playing against this control deck, basically you want to attack with Spiritomb if that's a possibility before anything else gets out of hands. I don't know why they grabbed Capture Energy. Okay, because they have the Zacian. So this could be actually a really weird matchup. This deck's been popping up everywhere over the past little bits. They're going to try to lock our everything in play. Maybe play a Wondrous Lab down, costing us extra energies. I'm just going to start attacking here. Okay, they got the Gorman dies. That's fine. So we have one retreat cost now. I don't see any reason why not to use Derail. Just want to save our resources this game. Boss orders are huge. And our opponent's going to probably try to get out some Grimers to evolve into a Muck. So just so they can start ripping our hand to shreds whenever possible. So we'll see exactly how it goes. And I have no promise on this matchup. I just think it's better to start attacking over and over again, holding on to your energies, using minimalistic attacks such as Spiritomb, just because they cost 1 energy, so your opponent can't Wondrous Lab kind of lock you out of the game. So our opponent here, I think, if anything, is probably going to grab a Wondrous Lab. But again, I could be wrong. It might be like Wondrous Lab and a Grimer. I don't know exactly what our opponent's list entirely plays. Now, this list doesn't play a Stadium. If this deck becomes bigger, we might change the text to go from Yveltals into playing other things. So the Crushing Hammer, I'm fine. This is why we play 10 energies. And they're playing a Galar Mine. That's fine. So we're going to put the Team Yellground on top of the deck. So in this case, I'm going to play Marnie because we don't want to get rid of our resources. We don't want to evolve because we just want to have single energy attacks. And there's a Dark Energy. Let's attack with Derail. So again, we didn't put the card on top, like their thing is on top of the deck. We didn't play Marnie to get rid of the Yellgrunt or anything like that because we know they're going to draw any Yellgrunts, so they put it on top of their deck. But I'm just going to keep on using Derail over and over again. And the fact that our opponent played down a Galar Mine, to me, tells me that they do not have a Wondrous Lab. So they will run out of Yellgrunts, or they will get Tails eventually with Snack Search, or they will run out of Crushing Hammers. Because you got to think with Crushing Hammers, they only play 4 copies. And the 4 copies of Crushing Hammer means that on average, they have to get 50% of them will be heads, 50% of them will be tails. And then on top of that, the Munchlax, 50% of it will be heads, 50% of it will be tails. That means each Crushing Hammer probably has a value of 25. So 1 out of every single 4. You can see there's a tails. So I can just go ahead and go Dark Energy here. I'm just going to go Derail. Do not waste your resources this matchup. Hold on to your switches if it's possible. And next turn, we could get the knockout with Derail and Zigzagoon if we really want to. Zigzagoon might be something that you don't want to play down on your bench, though, just because it does not have a very strong attack. Surprise attack doing 30 for 2 with a flip a coin. So now our opponent's just going to use Scoop Up Nets. But we could start using Clutch and things like that if we can get to that point. So we'll see exactly what they're going to put on top of their deck. And we're just going to keep on doing this. I probably shouldn't have put down another Yveltal, realizing that our opponent was playing. I thought they might have been playing Mad Party. But there's a Team Yellgrunts. We just need to find an energy this turn. So let's go Pokemon Communication away the Zigzagoon. I actually don't mind seeing a Spiritomb here. I'm just going to put 10 on, I'm going to put up to 20 damage on it because we got to watch out for their Mew. I am going to Quick Ball away this. I probably only need the 1 Zigzagoon, so I'm going to just discard that. There's probably nothing else I really want to play down except for the Crobats, just in search of a Dark Energy. So, I mean, unfortunately, we don't have one. So we're just going to go for an attack with Derail. No prize cards, no nothing. It's just more or less it is what it is. And you can see our opponent's just taking the energy away. Their retreat cost is higher. They probably send up the Munchlax forgetting their retreat cost. So reasonably, they're just kind of wasting their time in a way. So we're just going to go Derail. Probably draw a prize card this way. They have to also be careful of their resources as well. There's another Munchlax for them. There's another Tails for them. Once we can start finding another card, we also have access to Dangerous Drill. We can use Building Spite. Again, we got to watch out for the Mew Psi Power. I don't want to lose any of these resources. So I'm going to go ahead and just go Derail, drawing us a prize card. Switch, obviously not that bad, so our opponent can't just boss his orders up one of our Pokemon and trap it there for the game. And now they're gonna go Cynthia Caitlyn. So they got their Snorlax going down there. Oh, they play an Obstagoon line as well. Interesting. Something we might need to watch out for if they do drop a Zigzagoon. They can search out some of those cards. I don't know if it's worthwhile to do extra damage there like that, but okay. I might actually go ahead, and if I can get a Dark Energy in any capacity, I might attack with the Spiritomb this turn, to be honest. So here's a Great Ball. There's going to be nothing there. I'm going to go ahead and go Dangerous Drill. Discarding this Eternatus VMAX. Let's take away their Stadium. Let's go Quick Ball, discarding a Research. Let's grab nothing. Since we're going to be going ahead and either pitching our hand or not, I'm going to go ahead and switch into the Spiritomb. If I just find an energy, we're pretty fine here. I'm going to go ahead and play the Crobat V first. So we do have a Dark Energy, so we don't want our opponent controlling our hands too much, but there's also not too much that's in our hand anyways. So let's just try to naturally thin down our hand a little bit more. I'm going to grab nothing, and I'm just going to go for Anguish Cry. We're doing 130 here anyways. So our opponent will either attack us with a Mew or something else like that. But reasonably, there's not too much that we can do with this hand, unless our opponent's taking away our energy or anything like that. I think we're in a pretty good spot, and the fact that they're playing the Galarian Obstagoon tells me that they might not be playing the Muck. So there's double Tails on Opal. That sucks for them. They wasted their supporter. Now they're getting a Capture Energy. You got to think, like, what could they actually be doing with that Capture Energy? There's a Snorlax, and the Snorlax is probably just going to get knocked out. Okay, so they're going to take away our boss's orders. I think. Maybe they'll take away our research. Oh, I'm the one that chooses. Okay, then I'm just discarding the Eternatus V. I didn't realize that I was the one who chose. Okay. You can see we're taking some prize cards here. It's not going bad. So let's go Crushing Hammer. Let's take away the energy. And I'm going to go ahead and just go Anguish Cry again. We're getting some decent knockouts. If our opponent doesn't get a Crushing Hammer or a Team Yell Grunt this turn, we could just get the knockout with the Yveltal on their Mew. And again, they have a Galar Mine in play. So if they have no way to take care of the Spiritomb, we're probably in a good spot. So we're slowly taking our prize cards. We still have 28 cards left in deck. I think we have a lot of resources left. Like, you got to think we have 8 Dark Energies. But we'll see exactly what our opponent can do. They're using Opal. Not so good at Opal for them. But their deck is heavily reliant on coin flip. So we'll see, like, maybe they'll be able to get the knockout on the Spiritomb. Maybe. Spiritomb's also very good in this matchup because if it ever gets stuck in the active, you can use Building Spite to eventually knock it out. I don't necessarily think that this build you need to worry about your opponent drawing too many prize cards. So there's the boss orders. We also have only played one switch. How many Eternatus Vs have we played? Let's go ahead and we're just going to discard Crushing Hammer, I think. Maybe Quick Ball. Quick Ball is probably fine. In case we get a Pokemon Communication, we could put that Eternatus VMAX back into our deck. I'm not too worried about it. I think our opponent's eventually just going to try to keep on reset stamping us in the cards. We draw until we have a big hand. We can't really plan too much. Okay, Marnie here to me seems like a very good card, because I might be able to switch out of here. So let's go ahead, play the Marnie. And that's fine. I could just start attacking with the Eternatus V at this point. So there's Power Accelerator, 30 damage. They don't have a Wondrous Lab in play so far. And it tells me they either don't play it or it's in their prize cards. Which can definitely happen when you play a 1-of card. But to me, I think I'm just going to be able to knock out a Munchlax with a Power Accelerator. I'm very close to just being able to knock out the majority of their Pokemon. Sure, my opponent could go Lieutenant Surge, Yell Grunt, but it seems they're still struggling to search out cards, and that's what you're going to have when it's a coin flip based deck. So there's Will. Okay. So they should be able to snack search, just grabbing a card back. We'll see exactly what they grab back here. There's a Yell Grunt. So they're for sure taking away my energy. That's fine. I do have access to switch. Again, I'm just going to go switch right into the Spiritomb. The Spiritomb's doing the most damage. And I'm going to go ahead and go Anguish Cry. I don't want to put extra damage on them because I don't want them just to drop a Zigzagoon and scoop up net it up, or just drop a Zigzagoon. But we're doing 130. Let's see what our opponent's doing. And again, they keep on sending up their Munchlax. It's getting trapped by Galar Mine. Okay, now they have this. This is weak to dark, so that is kind of our win con here. So they finally dropped the 2 prize card Pokemon. It's a boss's orders away from getting knocked out. Okay. So I'm actually going to go ahead and knock it out this turn because, again, it is weak to dark. Keep that in mind. So we're going to go boss orders, bring up the Oricorio. They're not going to get to draw any extra prize cards. We're just going to go Anguish Cry for the knockouts. And now we're at 1 prize card left. Will we be able to complete this game? That's kind of where that's where my question's at. Our opponent's going to be stuck with the Munchlax in the active spots. Being forced to find out, I think, their last scoop up net. It's hard when you're playing on the ladder. You don't have a list in front of them. But there's our energy. Okay, and they got a Wondrous Lab out. That's fine. We have no way to bump the Wondrous Lab. Let's discard this, and this. I don't think we need any of those cards. And it just comes down to, will our opponent be able to get Yell Grunt every single turn? So it's more or less a waiting game. So they do not have anything that they could put on top of their deck. Let's just go ahead here. Dark Energy this up. There's nothing else I would really want to do here. So I'm just going to go ahead here and pass. I will use Research. I have no attack I could use. I'm just going to use Research next turn if we don't get knocked out or if our opponent does not rip our energy away. So now they're resorting to us. We need to find a switch and an energy. They're probably going to grab a Yell Grunt here to take away my energy. And we only have a retreat cost of 2 on this Crobat, so keep that in mind as well. Just want to check how many Eternatus VMAX. I don't think we're ever attacking with Eternatus VMAX this game. They're going for a boss orders play. I can actually hold on to our resources here. So I'm just going to go ahead and play the Marnie. Again, I'm not too worried about this. And we have game. We were going to get it with the research or the whatever. It's only 2 cards left. There's that. And we expertly were able to go through this matchup. So, I mean, just take it slow. Don't overbench. Don't bench Pokemon that can't really attack, but it's not terrible. So we're going to call the coin flip. I'm just going to call heads. No reason to call anything. We won the coin flip. Here, I think I want to go first. I can't assume on ladder when my opponent's playing anything with Crushing Hammers or not, so we might make the wrong choice. Starting with the Eternatus V is usually the most correct thing to do in most cases. Starting without an energy here is a little bit awkward, but maybe we'll be able to get one from our opponent's mulligan. Looks like they're playing Pikarom. So it's actually a fine matchup for us if we could just get set up in general. And yes, we'd like to draw a mulligan. So there's a Great Ball that's going to give us some options. So let's go Great Ball first, because Great Ball is going to allow us to determine what we're doing with our hands. And here, since we already have a bunch of things that we could already do, I just want to get a Crobat V out. Because we could potentially draw some cards. So let's drop these cards like they're hot. And the Zigzagoons, it's going to suck because I'd like to play them down on other Pokemon. Not a Tapu Koko, but we're just ridding our card of hands to try to get an energy. So unfortunately for us, no energy there at all. We do want to keep a bench spot open for just a Crobat in case it's necessary or anything else like that. But we're going to pass. Since we're playing against a Pikarom, or it seems like we're playing against a Pikarom, the strategy in this matchup is actually to go second. It's much better to go second in this matchup. So if you do know what you're playing against, second against Pikarom, again, it's a Crushing Hammer deck. You want to go second against Crushing Hammer decks. You want to go Power Accelerator to get around their Crushing Hammers, and then kind of knock out their Pokemon. Switch is a good way to get around Tandem Shock, but they don't have a great way to do 340 damage to your Eternatus VMAX. So they're going to struggle throughout the game. It's going to be very Crushing Hammer, Yell Grunt reliance. And as long as you can get set up, you should be okay. So we'll see exactly what our opponent does here. They're probably going to try to go for an Electrify play. Should be okay against it. There's their Pikarom. If they attach to the Pikarom, I feel a lot safer. Oh, but currently they're dropping their hands. Looks like they're trying to get a few things out here. Will they find the Boltons? Because I think our opponents already played the Research. Yeah, they played a Research already, so they can't play another supporter as well. So they just naturally would have to have it. So any energy that they attach, we could use that Crushing Hammer. Just to slow our opponent down a little bit more. You can see they've already used a few energies in the discard pile. Dangerous Drill is also kind of huge in this matchup. You could take away their special lightning energies, stuff like that. But they did end up getting the Boltund out. Probably just going to power up the Mewtwo. I'm cool with it. Most lists only play like 1 or 2 big charms. So again, if you don't know what's in your opponent's deck, just check what's in their discard pile, what they've played already. There's usually limitations to their deck. So at this point, I honestly don't think that there's too much else that I'm really going for here. We got the Eternatus V. So let's go ahead and do this. We can thin down our hand a little bit more. I'm actually going to quick ball away the Marnie. I think we're able to just go... we have enough Eternatus VMAX in the deck that we can kind of search through. Let's just grab some things built up and get some more Pokemon onto our side. So there's a Spiritomb. And the reason why I evolved the bench one is because, again, we're trying to go with that Power Accelerator strategy. So we're going to pitch this one. We're going to add another Pokemon down on our bench. So just trying to play down as many Pokemon as possible so we can get those big attacks off. Let's go for the Crushing Hammer. We got the heads. You always want to take off the Pokemon that you're worried that's going to attack you. In this case, the Mewtwo. I want to slow down as much as possible because we can knock out a Boltund V no problem. And I'm going to go ahead and research here. Hopefully you can find the 2 energies, which we did. Awesome. Let's go Building Spite here because we don't need to really worry about the damage that our opponent can do with Spiritomb. You only really worry about Building Spite when your opponent spreads, has Zigzagoons, Scoop Up Nets, things like that. So there's a Dark Energy. I almost don't want to play down this Yveltal. I'm thinking I'm not going to, just because we could search for another Eternatus VMAX. We have Switch. We have a whole bunch of good stuff going on for us. or we could always turn it into a Crobat for next turn. And the more that we just hold on to our hands, the higher chance our opponent's not going to Marnie us, because they just think our hand might be dead. So let's go ahead, poke into this Boltons, especially since the damage doesn't matter now. And we're going to power up the Eternatus VMAX. So our opponent, in order to get around this, would have to get a Crushing Hammer Heads and a Yell Grunt, or a double Crushing Hammer Heads. So the more energies that we could try to get in play, we're usually in a much better spot. So we'll see exactly how our opponent handles this. It's another research that they've played. So there's a Crushing Hammer, Tails. Now, Pikarom lists typically play 4 Crushing Hammers. Some lists don't. The lists that don't play Crushing Hammer should be as close to an auto win as possible. But I fully expect that our opponent's just going to attack us with a Mewtwo this turn, maybe using Full Blitz or Tandem Shock. If they use Tandem Shock, I'd actually rather that, because we could just evolve into an Eternatus VMAX, put 2 Pokemon in play, and get the knockouts. If they get a Big Charm, we could always use Dangerous Drill on it. If you don't have Dangerous Drill in your deck, you should probably have that, or Tool Scrapper. Now, that's very meta dependent. As Pikarom kind of fades its way out of the metagame, this deck's been getting countered a lot. It might be worthwhile to eventually cut the Dangerous Drill or Tool Scrappers, but currently, right now, this list is very in the moment for the Eternatus VMAX list. So, kind of how I explained, we're toying around with counts, stuff like that. I don't know what our opponent's going to grab. They might just grab a Raichu, a Alolan Raichu. They could grab a Dedenne GX here. Depends on what they have on a way to get out of the active spot. But our active game plan here should just be knocking out 2 tag team Pokemons, which means that we're probably going to win the game in the next 2 turns. The fact that they're grabbing the Mewtwo and Mew GX means that if they're attacking with the Mewtwo and Mew GX here, they're probably going to be going full blitz onto the other one. Either that, they're also searching for Crushing Hammers. They've discarded 2 Crushing Hammers so far. I mean, we're still vibing. But it looks like they actually missed it. Which for me, I almost would rather that happen. Because we might be able to just get an early... If we can get a boss orders, I think we might be fine here. So let's go Pokemon Communication. And if we don't get the knockout on the Mewtwo this turn, that's completely fine. So let's go Pokemon Communication. At this point, we're going to grab a Crobat V, because it's what gives us our best chance of getting a boss's order. So we're going to go switch into the Yveltal, because the Yveltal is free retreat. Make sure to check your opponent has no Galar Mine, Absol, anything that's stopping. And yeah, our opponent's just going to concede. They already know what's happening. Opponent's giving us hello. We'll give it back. I'm just call Tails here. I mean, I don't think we're really good at winning the coin flip. I like when our opponent chooses, because we don't have to decide. We'll just go first. I mean, when in doubt, it's better to go first with a deck like this, because if you just get an energy on an Eternatus V, you're good to swing huge next turn. There's not a lot that's going to stop us. See what our opponent's playing here. There's a Jirachi. That's completely fine. It's a Dark Energy. I mean, I don't know if it's worthwhile for me to play anything else down. I honestly don't know if it's worthwhile to play anything else down. Yeah, we could probably thin down our hand a little bit. So let's just go Quick Ball. Considering most decks that play Jirachi are usually single prize card decks or Scorch, I think it's probably best for us to grab like a Spiritomb here. And just go Spiritomb, put this down, hit for 10. Not that the 10 damage matters, we're just trying to get it out of our hands. We're not playing the Quick Ball because we don't want to get rid of the Dark. And here you could see that we could just kind of play some bench Pokemon down. I am going to go ahead and go Building Spites. And then I'm just going to pass. So we have a Crobat for next turn. We could switch into an Yveltal, just to thin some cards out of our hand. We could probably thin down our entire hands. So the Giant Hearths and the Scoop Up Net, it's not telling yet. This could be a Blacephalon, Cracephalon, Fire Toolbox, Tempozard, Scorch. We might just be getting a turn 1 win here. But the fact that our opponent's grabbing a Quick Ball is interesting. We'll see exactly what it is real soon. Okay, so we are playing against Scorch. I think Scorch is slightly favored. We could actually even go all out here and get a knockout on the Scorch V. Oh, they're just going to take the energy away from the Eternatus V. Interesting. So they're going to hit us for 20, remove our energy. I'm cool with that. Means they're not doing their whole kind of powerful turn. So there's a natural Yveltal. And I'm going to switch into the Yveltal. Then I'm going to go Eternatus goes down here. I'm going to quick ball, discarding away a boss's orders. I'm going to grab nothing here. I actually just want to try to keep a quick ball in hand in case we get an Eternatus VMAX. Which, I mean, we totally can get an Eternatus VMAX. So now we can start fully loading our bench. We have access to the quick ball for next turn. I wouldn't mind getting out another Eternatus V. So I'm going to go Great Ball. I mean, you got a pretty good chance of naturally getting it. Worst comes to worst, I could have always waited a turn. But there's that. Let's build this up. And I'm just going to vibe with this hand. We already attached for our turn. So let's go ahead here and pass. So not only is our opponent going to need to get a Welder, they're going to need to get a Welder, 3 energies, and a Centiskorch, or, a Welder, 2 energies, and a Centiskorch VMAX. With supporterless hands, we know that they do not have access to Welder in their hand right now. And there's a very good chance we take the first hit on their Centiskorch V or VMAX. Great Catcher's not going to do anything in this matchup. It's actually one of the greatest things about this deck. Your opponent can't just randomly bring your stuff up. And as much as we discard that boss orders, there's a pretty good chance that we might be able to get an attack off and just knock out the Centiskorch V and steal the game at any given point. I'd say we're in a much better position than our opponents. Yeah, the Radiating Heat was a little bit meh, it's whatever. Oh, they got the Centiskorch V Max. Maybe they're going to go for a Dedenne GX. Wait, did they grab nothing from the Pokemon Communication? That's a really awkward, that must have been a mistake. There's no way. I am going to go here and go Crushing Hammer. I don't see any reason not to play it. I'm also going to go Quick Ball, just grabbing another Pokemon in play. I'm fine to grab an Yveltal here. There's nothing else that I really want to search for. So let's go ahead and go Crobat. If we can get a Dark Energy and a boss, we're just going to steal this game. Even just like the Dark Energy alone, we probably steal this game. So a little bit unlucky on the Crushing Hammers. That's fine. It's not going to matter too much. Let's just go ahead here, attach the Dark Energy. Retreat. I'm just going to attack. I'm not going to sit around here waiting for a boss. I'm not going to sit around waiting for a lot of things. So there's a Great Ball. I would have loved to have a bench spot open. Maybe I should have saved that Quick Ball for a bench slot, because I would have been able to get out another Crobat V. But we'll see what our opponent's going to do here. Are they going to go Welder? Are they going to use Radiating Heat again? If they use Radiating Heat, we'd actually be put in an awkward spot because we don't have access to another energy. Our opponent probably doesn't know that, though. They're making some very questionable plays at best. And no offense to our opponent, I mean, they might be playing Centiskorch for the first time. They might have misclicked as well. It happens to the best of us. But it's one of those things where, like, just strictly looking at the game, there's some questionable plays that they've made so far. And it looks like they just really want to take the first attack into us. I'm still kind of fun with that. Okay. Looks like they're just going to sacrifice the Crobat V. Okay. Looks like they're going to attack with Centiskorch. There's a G-Max Centiferno. Next turn, they are hitting for 160. If they attach an energy, they are hitting for more. I am going to go ahead and put an Eternatus V Max. Here, I'm not going to do any more damage. I am slightly worried that our opponent can just bop some things around. I'm going to take care of this Yveltal in the hands, just to thin out the deck a little bit. Not thin out the deck, just thin out my hand in case our opponent plays a reset stamp, in case we can get a Crobat next turn. So let's go ahead and swing in with Dread End. And we're not going to lose our Pokemon because we did evolve into Eternatus VMAX. If we did not do that, we'd have to discard Pokemon down to 5 because we would not have Eternal Zone in play. PTCGO makes it a lot easier. I'm sure that there would be a lot of troubles playing this card in real life. I have not played Eternatus VMAX in real life because of the pandemic. I have not really built too many in real life decks. So our opponent having to attach an energy here is nice to the Centiskorch VMAX. So there's their energy. They're probably just going to take the knockouts. And I mean, we're on top deck mode. We haven't played a supporter this entire game. We also can grab our 4th Crobats. So I mean, all we need is a Dark Energy or a Crobat or anything like that. I think we're in a really incredibly good spot. So we'll send up the Yveltal. I mean, I think Yveltal is probably the best Pokemon that we could send up here. So we did get a Marnie. I think I'm going to try the Great Ball first. We actually did rip the Crobats. I'm going to go ahead here and just probably discard another Yveltal. Just from the hand to draw 3 with Crobats. It's going to extend the reach of the Marnie. And considering there's not too many cards that we actually need here, I'm just going to go research. So instead of us just seeing the 5 cards with the Marnie, we're actually going to see 10 cards with the Crobat plus the research. So I'm going to go research just to try to draw an energy to knock out with Spiritomb. And apparently we're just going to be never lucky here. This is where the deck can often falter, where it just misses an energy or anything like that. You can see that we still have 7 energies left. Where are energies between the 18 cards here? At this point, I'm probably fine just to send up the Zigzagoon and pass. The reason why I'm sending up Zigzagoon is because Zigzagoon doesn't have free retreat, and I'm hoping our opponent does not have boss's orders. This is one of the only few ways that Scourge can win against a scenario like this, where we just run out of steam, and they're able to keep on going with G-Max Inferno, or build up another Scourge VMAX. Because the way that I'm looking at this game, I think we win the game in about 2 turns, depending on what our opponent does. Maybe 3 turns. But the fact that they're able to just build up another Scourge V in play is making it incredibly awkward. But reasonably, there's not much else that I could have done. Even if I went for the Marnie play, which was more conservative, I don't think it would have changed too much about what was going on. Yeah, there's the boss's orders. Now, their deck might struggle with getting out boss's orders. It's one way to look at it. So there's a G-Max Inferno. At this point, I might have to just forego the whole Spiritomb strategy. Maybe, maybe not. You can see the next card is a Dark Energy. We would have been in such a better spot. I mean, here we got to switch anyway. So let's send up the Yveltal. And the way that I'm thinking about this, it's just incredibly tough. I mean, Great Ball to me seems like a great option because I can use Great Ball. I typically like using Dangerous Drill for Great Ball related cards. Do I go for the energy on Spiritomb and then potentially just try to get the knockout somewhere? Or do I put the energy on the Eternatus VMAX? I think I'd just probably go on the Spiritomb at this point, Marnie my opponent, and hope that they're not able to knock out my Eternatus VMAX. Maybe I'll even go Crushing Hammer on one of their Pokemon. Yeah, let's go Crushing Hammer there, take away their energy. So just jumping back a little bit more into the game, we don't need too much damage on here, but considering that my opponent hasn't really put down his Zigzagoon yet, I'm just going to go ahead here and go Building Spite. I'd like to be able to build up, like next turn, I might be able to get a knockout if they drop it to Den AGX without even knowing it. So let's go Anguish Cry there. And sure, our opponent can get a knockout with Radiating Heat, but if they're getting a knockout with Radiating Heat, it's... at least I'm not losing the game. So I would need my opponent to get boss orders and a way to attack here. So the Crushing Hammer is saving us in a way because they have an extra energy on there. They need 2 energies in order to be using boss orders. Otherwise, they need to be using... they need to be using... a Welder that turn. They can't play Welder and Boss in the same turn. Our opponent, I'll give them the face because they're going to be taking the knockouts. I wasn't expecting them to get the Scoop Up Net so quickly. Let's go ahead and send up our free retreater. Again, I don't think our opponent's going to be able to take a knockout here. Maybe they will. Maybe they'll just go Scourge VMAX, Welder, couple energies. They've also used a lot of energies. There's 10 energies in the discard pile. And even here with the reset stamp, there's plenty of resources left in our deck here. We've played 2 Marnies and 1 Research. Okay, Fire Crystal. I really need to hope for a lack of Welder or... Okay, so they got the Welder. Maybe a lack of Scourge VMAX. There's a Giant Hearth. So there's no energies left, but they do have 1 in their hands. Are they going to attach the other energy to their Scourge VMAX? I don't know why they didn't. So now we're down to... Our opponent's down to 1 prize card. This is going to be really awkward. Let's go ahead here and just go Marnie. I don't think we're going to be able to take this game anymore, by the way. Because our opponent doing 160 damage, they can search out their other energy. They have 1 prize card left. I mean, at this point, the best thing that can possibly happen... We've already used all 4 switch as well. Is just send up the Eternatus VMAX. Maybe our opponent will have a different idea. We do have game in hand for next turn. But you can see with our rough start and everything, we're only a couple turns away with our opponent getting incredibly lucky to get the Zigzagoon out in play. So they're going to grab the energy out there. And we will just let our opponents play out their turn, see how much they want to do here. So they would have had the Welder too. Maybe if we could have taken away their Giant Hearth, it would have been a little bit better for us, but they seem to just naturally have that Fire Crystal. So Scourge can quickly build up energy in play. It's not necessarily the greatest matchup, but I do think it's slightly favorable. We just got incredibly unlucky this game. That's all it is. No worries at all. So that's what we've got for this video today. To sum up my thoughts on Eternatus VMAX, I think Eternatus VMAX is one of the absolute best decks in the format, boasting a wide range of successful matchups that you could beat, and against most decks, I feel like you actually have a chance. Like if you're running against a Decigoons, Luke Metal, a Colossal, you still have an opportunity. It's not like it's an auto loss. Sure, they're unfavored, heavily unfavored, but you could still win. Overall, if you're playing in a best of 1 tournament, Eternatus VMAX I think is the absolute best choice you could be making, unless Luke Metal, Cole, Decigoons, things like that pop off like crazy. I think if you're playing in a best of 3 tournament, Scourge might have a slightly better matchup spread, or it might have slightly more maneuvers that would allow you to win in a wide variety of cases. That's my hot take on it. So I feel like Eternatus and Scourge are the same, except Eternatus needs a lot less to get it going in best of 1. So it's overall a little bit more consistent, but in best 2 out of 3, Scourge will probably prevail a little bit more, because Welder decks can be a little bit sloppy at times. So we'll see exactly how it goes or how the strategies change in the game. As you can see, even though our format's a little dull or stale or anything like that, it's one of those things where new decks and new innovations are still coming out on a weekly basis, if not a daily basis. So stay tuned on the channel. I'm going to keep on posting some more cool stuff, things that will be helpful. So it's one of those things. Hopefully you all enjoy this video, learned a few things about Eternatus or just decks in general. So keep on watching the channel. Hit that subscribe. I know Wailord's blocking it. Hit that subscribe if you haven't already. And I gotta create some more content, so I'll catch up with all of y'all later. Peace out. Really hope that you enjoyed watching that video. I totally enjoyed making it. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like the video, share the video with everyone that you know, and subscribe to the channel as well. Totally appreciate all the support. We got a lot of cool things happening on the channel, so stay tuned for more. Be sure to check out the social links in the description. Thanks and have yourself a great one.